This webinar is designed to help you develop the tools and resources for enacting a garden ministry in your congregation. I would like to start us off by reading a prayer sent to us by Pastor Jeff Wild of Advent Lutheran Church in Madison, Wisconsin. Advent Lutheran has a successful gardening program on their property, and their work has been recognized by the local media as well as the magazine, The Lutheran.
We're going to be taking a look at hunger in America. We're going to be taking a look at how our food bank system works. We're going to be taking a look at how food drives work. And we're going to be taking a look at a solution that I came up with. Today in America, this is what hunger looks like. It's us, it's our next door neighbors, it's the people down the street. Particularly difficult for many of us is that in the United States, one out of every 4 children under the age of 6 is now living in a food insecure home, and if you're Hispanic, it's 1 out of 3 children. Now, the presidential debate was last night, and no, this is not a political map. But I'd like you to imagine for a minute the combined populations of these 23 of our 50 states. If you take all the people together in these 23 states, you have about 50 million. That's the number of people in the United States who do not have access to an adequate amount of healthy food in their own homes. The result of this is that people are often relying on the cheapest calories they can afford. The cheapest calories are also the least healthy calories in many cases, and so it has an impact on the nation's health and well-being. Heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes being huge problems for our healthcare system, and they're all impacted by the diets that people are dealing with. So the problem in America is not that we don't have enough food. The problem is that we're not taking advantage of the food that we already have, that's already in the community. This is a particularly important picture to me. In 2008, Bill Marsh, New York Times, produced this photograph. This is his representation of the amount of food lost in America by a family of 4 in a month. 100 billion pounds a year, about a pound a person a day. According to a study that just came out from the National Resource Defense Council about a month ago, 40% of the food in America is simply not consumed. So we're wasting vast amount of food in our country. This while we have a significant portion of our population that doesn't have access to healthy food. Now, this is not just an issue of our health and well-being. Food that is thrown away actually has an environmental impact on the waste stream as well as on the methane emissions from trash dumps. So the Environmental Protection Agency has its own program to reduce the amount of food thrown away because of the environmental impact. So how do we normally handle dealing with hunger in our communities? We have food drives. What basically happens is that the food that we are asked to bring in for the food drive is typically canned or boxed food. It's typically packaged with sugar and corn syrup or with salt or with both of them, which all have long-term health consequences in terms of the diseases that people get down the road. Now, how does the food system actually work? You bring a donation into the food drive room. What happens is this: you're told to bring in cans and boxes, but not to bring in fresh food. The food goes from you to a food bank. A food bank is a large regional warehouse, around 203 in America. The food banks are where that food is stored, and then it is from there goes to the 33,500 food pantries in the community. It's in the pantries where people go to get food to feed their families. However, the delivery cycle between the food banks and the food pantries can be measured in days or weeks, which is the reason why you're told you can't bring in fresh food because fresh food can't go through that cycle. So somebody like me who's got fresh food can't bring it in. I was bothered by that, and I realized that if I bypassed the food bank and I got the food directly to a food pantry, I could get the food in my garden to the people in the community who really need it and solve a huge problem. In the spring of 2009, I created ampleharvest.org to be an internet solution to bridge the gap or connect the dots between the 40-plus million home gardeners in America with excess food in their gardens and a food pantry immediately in their own community. The result was building a site in which I had a vision of millions of gardeners helping to eliminate malnutrition and hunger in their own community. And the mission was very, very simple: to educate, to encourage, and to empower these gardeners to donate the excess food in their garden instead of letting it rot to help their neighbors in need. The fundamental idea behind this was no food left behind. The result is that growers across the country now with the food in their home garden, and whether it's somebody growing herbs in their kitchen window or somebody with a larger amount of food, could donate food and make a change in their own community. These are just examples of some of the donations from pictures that we've received from across the country of people bringing backyard garden produce to a nearby food pantry. This, by the way, beautiful photograph is a donation I made to a pantry in Mahwah, New Jersey on Memorial Day weekend. This was food that otherwise I couldn't have consumed. The idea was started in March of '09. In 7 weeks, I had it built, tested, and rolled out. Today, nearly 5,500 food pantries, or 1 out of every 7 in America, are registered. And by the way, the idea has now gone global. I have spoken with folks from, I think, nearly a dozen countries. And I actually, this past Monday, met with folks from the Polish Food Bank, giving them the idea of what's to be done, how to do it, and then let them make their own version of ampleharvest.org in their own community. We've had an immense amount of media coverage, which has been amazing. Google has been a wonderful partner, providing nearly $500,000 a year of support in terms of advertising for ampleharvest.org. Again, we are trying to educate people across the country that they can do something other than throw excess food away. And this is really a change in people's behavior, not unlike what we did when we started recycling our trash rather than simply throwing it away. This is our national map. This is the impact that ampleharvest.org has had so far. Every dot on this map, and although you don't see Alaska and Hawaii, they're included too, every dot represents a food pantry now registered on ampleharvest.org and now willing and able to receive food from a local grower. You can see white spots in the white sections of the map. We have more work to do, and we could use your help in getting more pantries up, but so far, this is the work that we've done. So when a pantry gets registered on ampleharvest.org, they're not alone. We will then give them a boilerplate press announcement to send out to the local media, helping them tell the local media that they're now on ampleharvest.org, and helping the local growers in the community know that they can now donate to the food pantry where in the past they didn't know they could. We also give them flyers that they can put up, and these flyers actually go into garden shops and nurseries to, again, help gardeners learn about the opportunity to donate. This is not just for homeowners, by the way. This is also for gardeners, it's for farmers, for CSAs, grocery stores, school and community gardens, any place where there's excess food in the garden. So how does it work? You go to ampleharvest.org and you press on the gardener's button which says find a pantry, and once you've pressed on that, you then put in your zip code. A list of the food pantries registered on ampleharvest.org come up in distance order. You select the one that is convenient to you that you wish to go to, and the information that that food pantry is put in goes up. Now you'll notice a couple of things here. One is the pantry can provide us with a photograph so you know if you're driving down the street, or you're looking for a brick building, a white building. But here's a really critical thing. If you see on the field where it says donation times, in the past, you never knew, if you knew about a food pantry, you actually never knew when to bring the food. The pantry maybe is only open on Saturdays. You show up on Monday, the food sits on the shelf for a couple of days. But because the pantry can now tell you what days of the week and what times to come, and presumably those are the times just before the clients come to pick up the food, you know when to harvest the food. So now you can harvest the food the night before or the morning of the donation, take it to the pantry, it sits on a table for a while, and then it gets given to the clients. Number one, they have no need for refrigeration or storage, the pantry that is, that's very important. Number two, the client is actually getting food fresher than you and I could buy at a supermarket. Lastly, on the bottom of the screen there, you see where gardeners can now also talk about the store-bought items they need. We never thought about this in the beginning, that it dawned on us, based on what this particular food pantry did, that if a pantry says, hey, we really need canned food or diapers or toothpaste, toiletries, you could also donate food or supplies from a supermarket. To deal with that, we built an Android and an iPhone app. They're both called Ample Harvest. They're both free, so that when you're in the store and you find something that's deeply discounted, you can see which food pantry in your area desperately needs some help. You can buy the items. You can take it from there. I had the honor this past January of doing a TEDx presentation.
The Jewish Community Centers Association is working with JCCs around the country to grow gardens and to get fresh food in underserved areas. And they're creating early child wellness programs. Groups like the National Council of Churches have joined with an organization called Ample Harvest to help gardeners donate fresh produce to 4,700 of their local food pantries.
This was from a speech that Michelle Obama gave in Florida this past February on the first anniversary of her Let's Move initiative. AmpleHarvest.org has been working very closely with the White House and with the Let's Move initiative to get healthy food to people. And she actually also had released a book this past spring called American Grown, which is a tabletop book about the White House garden, and we're delighted to say that there was a sidebar in her book about Ample Harvest. These are the partners that we're proud of saying that we've been working with since we rolled out AmpleHarvest.org. Google, as I mentioned, the White House, the National Council of Churches, a mixed bag of both commercial and nonprofit organizations, all coming together to recognize that the food that's already in the community can help the people in the community who never thought they would be able to get access to fresh food. And once a grower knows where the food pantry in their community is, and once the grower knows that they can donate the food, they will presumably do so for the rest of their gardening life. What AmpleHarvest.org is creating is a lifelong change, a lifelong bridge in the community that will change the face of hunger and nutrition in the community. So, how can the faith community get involved and help AmpleHarvest.org? First of all, and most important, if your house of worship, if your church has a food pantry, urge them to register on AmpleHarvest.org. It's free. They don't need storage, they don't need refrigeration, and it's free. And I say that twice because it's really important to them. Secondly, help all of the church members learn about AmpleHarvest.org, about their opportunity to reach into their backyard instead of their back pocket to help their neighbors in need. Thirdly, print out this flyer. It's on the homepage for the website, and get it to all the garden shops and nurseries and hardware stores and the YMCA bulletin board and the supermarket bulletin board. Get it up to help more growers learn about their opportunity to donate. Urge the members of the congregation to follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. This is a good way of staying in touch with what we're doing and further help to promote the idea across the country. And lastly, when you do donate food to the pantry, we'd love to get a photograph of it. We take the photographs, we post them up on the website, we post them up on Facebook, and this is actually a very good way to incent other people to donate. It's very important, by the way, for people to know that just because they only have a handful of parsley, or they only have a shopping bag of carrots, that's fine. It's not the amount of food that you have that you donated, it's that food isn't being wasted, and whatever you do have will get donated. There's a biblical component to this that basically says that we take care of our neighbors by using the fruits of our land. We're very pleased that the National Council of Churches has been a partner organization of AmpleHarvest.org. This goes back to 2010, and we've been working with all members of the faith community, Christian, Jewish, and Muslim, to promote what we're actually doing.